Hey everyone, this is Squad Evgen Russia. I'm also going to record a tutorial video for you guys. It happens there's barely any info out there on how to build your economy when our match settings have Uncapped Peasants enabled and faster peasant spawn is also turned on. The thing is, playing with these settings comes with specific nuances that you really need to understand. And since I've been getting pretty solid results, and players in-game keep asking me questions on what to do and how it'll be convenient if I just record one video right now where I can cover a ton of info all at once. Our starting gold is 3,000, the PT. Peacetime. Length doesn't really matter. I'm going to showcase this slowly anyway, so that the info is easier to absorb for beginners since these settings are mostly played by newbies. And I will try to show even the micro details that might have been well known to everyone for a long time. Alright, let's get into it. First thing I do is delete the stockpile. We're going to relocate it. After that, you can place a granary. If possible, drop the granary right in the middle of the farms. If that's not possible, and when we are on the upper part of the map, we should place it directly above the farms. If we are on the bottom part of the map, somewhere around here, then we drop, then we don't want the granary here, but right here instead. Why? Because this game has the bottom left corner rule. The thing is, working peasants interact with buildings through the bottom left corner. They drop off food at the bottom left corner. They drop off weapons at the bottom left corner. They enter their workshops through the bottom left corner, and therefore we just shorten their walk distance. That is one of our goals, to shorten the distance for the working peasants so that they work more efficiently. After that, we can place the stockpile. Place it wherever we'll have enough open space to build out our economy. In this case, I'm putting it right in the middle. Right here, this spot gives me plenty of room. If you are playing here solo with no allies and you're going to take all the resources, the clearing here is bigger, but it's better not to place the stockpile here. Why? Because if you place the stockpile right here, those iron mines will be mined way less efficiently. It's still better to place it right in the middle. After that, we need to add hovels immediately. We need our population to constantly grow there. Start doing this right from the get-go. Granaries, stockpile, hovels, and let's keep it moving. All of this is done fast. I'm showing it slowly right now, but I think you get the point. Buy some wood. Next, we need to place the resource buildings that we have available on the map. Place the wood cutters. Place apple orchards. I place them in 2 seasons. I will explain this now, maybe for those who don't. No, the thing is, now that winter is over and spring has arrived, I place the 2nd season. Greater than this cannot be placed here. The thing is that when a certain orchard has no crop ready, the working peasant goes to gather crops from a neighboring orchard. And that's how we increase our overall apple production. What do we do after that? After that, we place a cathedral, a church. We buy bread and set it to auto-buy. Set cheese and meat to auto-buy as well. And set apples to be sold. Set rations to -4. And set taxes to -2. We hit exactly 0 in popularity. Our taxes are set to -2. These settings for rations and taxes are left like this until the end of the PT. Drop the resource buildings that we have available on the map right next to us. Capture everything. Try not to build on top of peasants. Don't block them so that the population builds up as efficiently as possible. Well, as much as you can. How do you place ox tethers? It's very simple. We snap it to the corner and step left by 1 pixel. This way, the stone will reach the stockpile as fast as possible. Because the peasant takes only a single step, he quickly loads up the ox and goes to the stockpile. And on top of that, you will need fewer of these ox tethers. And this has 2 more advantages. First, the fewer ox tethers you have, the less you take up the building limit. And the building limit is very important because when we play 3v3 and sometimes even 2v2, The building limit is used up very quickly, and you might run out of room for stables, or you might run out of room for shields. And besides, there is another plus. The fewer ox tethers, the more stone actually lands in your stockpile, because a certain amount of stone will just sit on the oxen the whole game. I think you understand. It's a so-called cash flow gap. In the exact same way, we place the rest of the oxen. Just one pixel to the left of the platform, and just in case I add a few extra ones as a backup, because depending on the distance to the stockpile, they still might not keep up. I add a little bit. Now we can place the workshops. But the question is, why didn't I place any inns at the start of the game and turn on -8 taxes? It's simple. This gold, which goes towards the inns and goes towards buying. Ale is expensive. As you can see, I spend on workshops instead. And the workshops bring me more gold than the difference between -2 taxes and -8 taxes. The thing is, I've prepared a picture. Here's what the difference looks like between 2 taxes and -8 taxes. This difference is not multiple times over. It's actually just double. This difference doesn't outpace the income from selling weapons. But there is one nuance here that is important to understand. I'll show you now. Let's look at the next picture. Pay attention to this setting right here. This setting determines not only our starting gold, but also the tax rate multiplier. This right here is standard. This is balanced. If it's in the middle or shifted to the right, that's the AI advantage. In these 3 cases, the tax rate remains just like this. If it is shifted to the left by 1 notch, notice how the tax rate already changes. And in this case, you just get more gold. And with a setup like that, you can already place inns right from the start. It is profitable. And there will even be enough gold to gradually place workshops. So it's a 2-in-1, pretty good. But in principle, even with these kinds of settings, workshops still bring in way more, because after all, the -2 tax income also scales up and you simply end up with more workshops as a result. But if you are used to playing with inns, then by all means, that's profitable too. You can totally play with inns. If you're used to playing macro from the start and setting the tax to -2 right away, you can play macro. It's also viable. But if you have this setting shifted all the way to the left, then it is absolutely textbook necessary to place inns, because the -8 tax rate already yields a whole lot. 180 gold is basically like -20 taxes. That's why when you have these settings in the middle or shifted to the right, we get this particular tax rate. And it's best to set the tax to -2 and spend all your gold on weapon workshops. Selling weapons will bring in more gold, even if you decide not to buy ale but instead start producing it right from the get-go. The very first free ale will only reach your stockpile after about 3 minutes, meaning you'll still have to auto-buy it for quite a while at the start. Now we can start placing the workshops. We need to figure out which workshops we are going to place and how to lay out them in a way that ensures the shortest path for our working peasants from the resource to the workshop and from the workshop to the armory. First of all, we place the armory not down below here, but directly on top of the stockpile. This is crucial. This will further shorten the walk distance for the working peasants. Now, we need to figure out exactly how many of them we need. We need to understand how many of them we need. If you aren't going to produce weapons, then 1 is enough if you're going to sell everything. But since we have plenty of iron on this map, we can play into knights, meaning we'll produce armor and swords. Therefore, let's drop a few right away in a block like this. And now we need to understand how to lay out the workshops so that they bring in as many weapons as possible. In order to check this quickly, we have a program that Rustam wrote. It's an economy simulator, a sandbox where you can build your economy and workshops and instantly see how much gold they will generate. And our first option is crossbow. Workshops. 5 stockpile tiles, 1 armory. and 111 crossbow workshops. Also, they are enclosed from the top and bottom by a wall. Let's see how much gold such an economy generates. It brings in 2,920 gold per minute. Good, keep that in mind. Let's look at the next option. The next option features the exact same number of workshops. Everything is the same, except these are pike workshops. How much do they bring in? 3,027 already. Why does it turn out that crossbow workshops bring in less? It all comes down to the distance from the stockpile, or rather, from the wood. The thing is, pike workshops work faster. They deliver weapons quicker, and therefore the further away they are from the stockpile, the more they outperform crossbow workshops. Here is an example. A layout like this is already way more efficient, because right next to the stockpile we have our crossbow workshops, and then further out we have our pike workshops. And how much gold does an economy like that generate? Let's check it out. It already brings in 3,085. That's even more than the previous option, pike workshops. And how much does an economy like that generate? Let's check. It already brings in 3,085. That's even more than the previous option. To help you understand how this works, let's set up an example. We'll place a crossbow workshop and a pike workshop. We'll even place it a bit further from the stockpile. That's how it works. Let's look at the difference between them. The difference is crossbow workshop yields 13.11, while the pike workshop already gets 15, so it brings in more. An important point: this kind of layout is more efficient if the Fletcher crossbow optimization is disabled in the current game settings. If Fletcher crossbow optimization is enabled, then we only place crossbow workshops, only workshops for producing crossbows. For example, we have that setting here. We have 2,920. We enable it. Fletcher crossbow workshop optimization. Now it's 3,600. That is much more than what the pike workshop produces. It all depends on this setting. By default, it is disabled. What other options do we have? We have an option where the workshops are shifted by 1 pixel. I've seen this before. What is the point of this economy? The point is that the peasants deliver the weapons to the stockpile, and returning to their workshop, they don't walk past it and enter from the side, but hit the bottom left corner immediately. Remember I mentioned the rule of the bottom left corner? That means the peasant essentially takes 1 fewer step. He gets into his workshop faster. And it's the same from below. He goes down and doesn't walk past, but hits the corner he enters through. Why is it the bottom left corner? It's simple. When we block the workshops from behind their entrance, changes from the back to the front. And so when we place the corner 1 pixel further to the left, they enter right through it. Let's see how much this economy generates. So 3,136. That's even more. Which option is this? This is our 4th option. So we have here 3,085. The previous one, 3,027. The very first one, 2,920. And this one is 3,136. It's even more than the previous options. But there are still more options. Let's see. an option where we have 2 lines, 2 rows together, then an offset of 1 pixel. 2 rows together, offset 1 pixel. 2 rows together, here we go. Like this, the economy is denser, more compact. How much does it produce? It produces 3,180. That's more. Not by much, but it's more than this 3,136. Well, in any case, even if it's per minute, it adds up to a lot in the long run. Yes. 3,180. This economy is even more profitable because it shortens the distance for the peasants, since 2 lines go together without any gaps. In the previous economic layouts, there is distance that accumulates in width. As you can see, this accumulated distance reduces profit in the long run. Even if we have a small, well, I've prepared some variations with a small economy. You might think not much distance is accumulated here. The stockpile is still nearby, the wood is still nearby, but nonetheless, this type of economy, where there is a 1 pixel offset after every single workshop, yields 1,597, while the one where we have 2 together yields 1,605. It's still more. Now we can place the workshops. First and foremost, we can place workshops to produce weapons for knights. How many pieces do we need? We base it on the number of iron mines. 1 mine supports roughly 2 workshops. It also depends on the distance from the stockpile, but it's an approximation. Here we have 10 of them. Accordingly, to begin with, we need to place 20 workshops. We offset 1 pixel from the stockpiles and 1 pixel from the stockpile with goods and start placing these blocks. This will give us, in the end, 2 lines. We try not to place them on peasants. Well, whenever possible. Of course, sometimes it's inevitable, we know. It will never be perfectly clean. You can place a few more sword workshops than armor. Workshops. They work a bit slower. Next, what do I do? I'll do it now, and then I'll explain. I've placed a wall. Now we can place the crossbow. Workshops. Also, why did I place a wall when we don't place a wall and start placing a workshop? And then after that, we place another one behind it. This worker dies. Let's see. See, he died. He came and died. Why? Because we blocked his path behind him. Therefore, we either place a wall immediately and place it right against the wall, and thus he immediately understands that he needs to enter from the other side, or another option. We place 1 line of length instead of a wall, and then just use it as a template, place it nearby, just backwards, starting from the back, and then no one dies. We continue placing workshops. The first 2 lines will also be crossbow workshops. There's no point in making crossbows further out. It's too far from the stockpile. It makes sense to make pikes. Don't forget to switch to crossbows. Furthermore, the first time we built the wall, we offset it by 5 pixels. And from then on, we offset by 3 pixels. 1, 2, 3. The old wall can be removed. And we place another line of crossbow workshops. Then the following rows will be pike workshops. I think you remember that. Next, what do? Up here, we have to separate the stockpile in order to create passages. This is important so that the workers don't have to go all the way around the entire stockpile, but can pass through these passages. And also, accordingly, we also offset the workshops to create passages so they don't have to walk all the way around. The entire economy, we try not to crush the peasants like I'm doing. You remember that. It looks something like this, and we will continue downwards as well. Naturally, if we continue, we'll place more workshops for producing pikes. They are more efficient when they are far from the stockpile. Click. It looks roughly like this, and from there we keep expanding the economy. Pay attention to how it looks. One more important point. I'll remove the stone for a moment. Now I will clearly show what else we do to optimize the work of all the peasants. Look, pay attention. The wood should be located roughly in the middle of the entire economy. It shouldn't be somewhere here at the beginning, and it shouldn't be somewhere here at the end. It should be located ideally roughly in the middle. This is a good spot, by the way, because the first stockpile is here. If they drop off weapons at the first stockpile, they immediately go get wood, picking it up right from here. So look, if your wood is not in the middle but somewhere at the beginning, buy it. If you have too much wood, wait until it's spent and then pin the auto buy where needed. That is, in the middle of the stockpile. This also optimizes the workflow for the peasants. This is important. This is one of those tricks in the economy that also provide a good boost in the long run. How large should the economy be? Here, look at the situation. It depends on the truce time, how long it lasts, and the amount of gold you have. You need to understand that you must leave some amount of gold for the start of the war. This is necessary to hire an army right after the truce ends, to build stables during the truce, and to buy weapons if necessary. Never spend all your gold entirely on workshops. Be sure to leave some for the start of the war. So when you have finished your economy, your workshops, you can also finish them off at the top with walls so they don't walk around at the top or enter from above. You can close it off with a wall. Well, how is that done? We offset 4 tiles and place a wall. This is also necessary so that no one dies. And now we place and finish the workshops. You can make passages. You can do anything here. By this time, when your economy is completed, all resources are placed. A certain amount of population has accumulated. When your truce time is nearing its end, with about 20% left, let's say, you have an extension. The total truce time is 15 minutes, and you have about 3 or 5 minutes left. You can already set your taxes to -24. This is mandatory. It brings in a lot of money from the population we have accumulated, and what do? We turn off the food. We set the tax to -24. And our gold starts to accumulate. Next, while we are sitting on taxes for this remaining time, about 3 to 5 minutes of truce, well, we must prepare for war, and we need to prepare the inns. I don't buy ale. It's more profitable to produce it. I remove some of the apple farms, set up hop farms, and place a number of breweries, just arbitrarily. And I set it with these settings when peasants are unlimited, meaning peasants come out quickly. I set 30 inns. Greater than you can set, fewer you can set, more. See for yourself. I'm used to setting 30 inns. This provides greater than 900 population. Why is this needed? For the reason that greater than 2 more. greater than for the reason that when I start to fight, my population will accumulate again, and it can go up to 900 with a negative tax rate. And so that it doesn't jump over 900, I delete extra hovels for this. And I also delete extra hovels for the reason that I need to free up the building cap, which I will need for shields, for stables. If we have 30 inns, I leave the population so it doesn't exceed 900. 898. So for me, as soon as the population approaches 898, it will stop, and I will still have here 8 popularity points from the inns. So 30 inns provide 900 population. And now pay attention, what will I do next? I wait until the inns start working at least some part and turn them off. Greater than so they don't waste ale. When I wake them up, they will start working immediately. Pay attention, they immediately start working. Therefore, they can be put to sleep safely. Next, with ale, I set just in case. Auto buy and just in case. Auto sell, so the stockpile suddenly doesn't overflow if too much is being produced. Next, what do I do with food? Right now it is turned off. We are sitting on a minus 24 tax rate. When the inns start providing a popularity bonus, I won't need to buy extra food. I remove it from the buy list, and we will only need to buy bread while our apples will be produced, and this will be enough to maintain the minus 24 tax rate. We will hit exactly 0 popularity. Next, you can place stables. Generally, I place stables right in the middle of the game when there is still plenty of wood being produced. It is desirable that the wood for them is free, the one being harvested, not the one you buy, because if you place them at the end of the peace treaty, then wood might not be harvested anymore, and you'll have to buy it to place the stables. Therefore, look at the situation. It's better, of course, if the wood is free. I place stables. I place the necessary barracks. I also place a wall. I place the wall. You can use high or low as far as possible from your keep, as far as possible, because this creates chances for all kinds of maneuvers. Now I will show you. I place a low wall just out of habit, because through it you can fire with catapults. Suddenly catapults are enabled. You can shoot from the inside outwards. Well, you can also place a high wall. I place the wall. I don't build gatehouses. I don't like gatehouses. They are inconvenient. They are easy to break. They are easy to capture. I build a passage instead, turning it to the side so that it cannot be shot through by archers. I place traps. Now I will explain further why. And here, to the right of this corner, I delete 1 pixel of the trap. Now I will show you what this is for. The rest, right? Behind and in front, I fill with moats. Why do I fill with moats in the front too? Because I try not to place many traps, because these traps, they also take up the building cap. If you place many traps, you might not have enough to make shields. You will start making shields, and it will be written maximum building cap reached. That's what this is for. After that, the truce time ended and the war began. The first thing I do is hire. To place in the passage, I hire assassins, at least 50 of them, but I usually hire 100 and send them straight here. For now, they are moving slowly. That's my priority. Then I start hiring shields. Wait, oh, what did I do? How did that happen? I only clicked once. Well, okay, no big deal. I'll disband some of them now. Some kind of glitch. Greater than hiring knights, hiring. Greater than now, they are returned, hiring. Some amount. straight into squads. You can go outside immediately. I play aggressively. It depends on your style, how you play. I try to rush out immediately, grab an advantage, the initiative. You can also take engineers with you to break the walls. This is already direct combat. And what do I do with the assassins who are about to arrive? I'll show you. The assassins have almost arrived. It is best to gather them into one single pixel in this corner so they stand there and wait. So what do? I select them, send them outside, and place an obstacle in front of them. I place a wall in this pixel, and notice they all run into this wall. This is a peculiarity of this game. It's not a bug. It's just a trick of this game, a quirk. I press stop so they don't move anywhere. Delete the wall, and that's it. They stand on the traps. Why don't they spread out to the sides? Because in this game, greater than there is such a trick. Greater than, okay, I'll take others now just to show you. Greater than some of these. And for some reason, many are hired at once. There should be 100. Oh well, so we place them. I just want to show you. We place traps. And on these traps, the warriors don't scatter. Now I'll show you how. This happens. Greater than you can gather them in one pixel using a bug, but I won't show you any bugs. Greater than those that are standing there. I just want to show you in case someone doesn't believe me. Greater than C, they don't scatter there. On the traps, they stand and don't scatter. Oh, I selected too many. That is why the assassins standing on the traps stay in place without fail. That's why they must stand on one trap. Notice, well, there are many of them standing there and they don't scatter. 154 are standing in place. You can gather them. Greater than, even tighter. Greater than there, they stand in place. This is a peculiarity of this game. You just need to remember and understand this. That's why the assassins here stand in place and don't scatter to the sides. What else is useful to mention? What is optimization of Fletcher workshops? I didn't say if anyone is interested. The thing is, by default, at Fletcher workshops producing crossbows, the worker who delivers the crossbow to the stockpile returns to his workshop empty-handed, and only after that does he go for the first board. But when Fletcher optimization is enabled, then the worker delivers the crossbow or 2 crossbows to the stockpile and immediately goes for a board. So you've hired an army. It's time to restore the economy. If you have any free peasants left, hire them all down to 0, because the fewer free peasants you have, the cheaper the restoration will be. If you don't have gold to hire the remaining peasants, you can hire ladders. But first you need to wake up the inn so that the peasants go there, and then use the remaining peasants. Whatever is left. If you don't have gold to hire decent warriors, hire ladder men. And the recovery looks like this. Switch to maximum rations, turn on money, distribution, and our inns provide 8. It's already 21. We wait. Greater than tools. Tools, ready. Greater than 42. And we're a little short on inns. Greater than 82. The recovery is quite fast. Greater than, and when we hit 100, we switch to -4, as we had before, and then not -2, but -8. And we even out to 0. Greater than, at the same time, we still have enough food for any number of population. We keep auto-buying bread, and we have quite a lot of apple farms producing. That's how we do it. Greater than remember, and it stays that way until the end of the game. Greater than we don't change anything after that. With a few exceptions. If you want to accumulate population again, you can use laddermen to hoard population in the middle of the game if you're fighting and the game drags on. Greater than and you, for example, have 898 peasants accumulated and they are just sitting idle at the campfire. You can hire laddermen with them and keep accumulating, and then at some point disband them and go back to a -24 tax rate if necessary. That depends on the situation. It's also a warfare trick. What else is useful to point out? Also, you absolutely must delete your woodcutters. That also takes up the building limit. We need to save the building limit. Why do we place the wall as far from the castle as possible? Because it gives us room to maneuver. If they break through the wall here, for example, if they get through, you can wall yourself off again. You have the space to fence yourself in, to build an additional wall while they are breaking through. This is so that the enemy army, when it breaks the wall, doesn't run to the side and get into your economy, doesn't start roaming around and breaking things, because it's hard to catch them later. It's better not to let them in. And you will stand here to meet them. You can place more traps right under yourself, so they are not visible. You stand here, and when they rush at you, you run away and they walk straight into the traps. But these are already the nuances of combat. In general, I've shown you everything I wanted to today. So thanks to everyone who watched. We try to release at least some content for you, and if it's interesting and useful to you, that makes us very happy. See you in the game. Bye everyone.